So we're back with another Nightmare on Elm Street film. This time it's the fourth film, The Dream Master. This franchise got increasingly higher budgets, but also increasingly higher box office take. The last film, the one before this one, got $44 million at the box office off a $7.5 million budget. So obviously with those kind of figures, they're gonna keep coming back with sequels. Unfortunately, we got The Dream Master. The Dream Master picks up pretty much where the last film left off, with the three remaining characters of the Dream Warriors that were left. So we have Kristen, we've got Joey, and we've got Kincaid. Now this time Joey and Kincaid are played by the same actors. However, the character of Kristen is played by a different actress, not Patricia Arquette, unfortunately. Instead we get Tuesday Night in the role. Yes, that's right, Tuesday Night. However, these characters only make a reappearance just to be picked off in the first third of the film. The real star of the show, the new character, the new hero or heroine, so to speak, is Alice, played by Lisa Wilcox. Now, Alice basically has the power to, well, I don't actually know because it's never really fully explained in the movie. I'm not sure if she's able to control the dreams or if she simply takes the different powers from all the people she's previously brought into the dreams, which kind of becomes totally null and void when you get to the end and see how she takes out Freddy. This film is a mess. Now, it goes without saying, it was written during a writer's strike. Basically, they started production on this film, then there was a writer's strike, and essentially people from the production crew started having to kind of fill in the blanks, having to rewrite the pages of the script. It shows. This is the first feature film by director Renny Harlin, who would go on to greater success with Die Hard 2, Die Harder, and a few other films. But it's safe to say he's not exactly known as an auteur director. What he does bring to this, though, is some visual flair when it comes to the nightmare sequences. Some of the nightmare sequences are really well orchestrated, some good visuals on there, quite trippy in many parts, and you really do feel like this is Alice going down the rabbit hole. Unfortunately, as I say, the glue that holds these together is just non-existent. There's so many random scenes in this film that just have, like I say, no explanation because they're random. It feels like they were just thrown in. There's a scene in which Kristen and her friends are all kind of looking at the house where Freddy Krueger grew up, where he used to live when he was alive, and all of a sudden Kristen's mum just is there. She's like, we don't see her turn up, she's just there in the car. She gets out, she bangs on the bonnet of her car and starts shouting at Kristen to get away from the house. And then she gets back in her car and disappears. She doesn't ask Kristen to get in with her and drive off with her. She doesn't tell her to go home or anything. And it's weird. She wasn't there at the start. She does that and then goes. It just happens. As with the third film, this film opens up with a quote. The third film was a piece of poetry. This is from the Bible, from the book of Job. But it never really addresses it. It doesn't kind of dig into that as a thematic point. It's just, oh, it's talking about dreams. Let's shove it on the beginning of the film because it makes it seem like it's actually about something. But it doesn't really delve into that in any kind of thematic sense. We get no explanation for why Freddy Krueger comes back. He just simply does. His bones awaken, they grow flesh on, and he's back. No explanation. At one point in this film, Kristen is given tablets by her mother to make her sleep, unbeknownst to her. Her mother basically just wants to get her to sleep. So she drugs her drink, and she falls asleep, and this is the middle of the day. Now she has the ability to pull other people into her dream as long as they're asleep also. It just so happens that in the middle of the day, Alice is asleep. For no apparent reason, she's just sleeping. And it's so coincidental, or so convenient, I should say, and so contrived. It's like they need to get them both into this dream. She's just sleeping in the middle of the day. Likewise, kids are dropping like flies in the school. They're all falling asleep. They're falling asleep in the toilet. They're falling asleep during exams. Literally, 2 kids in an exam are falling asleep. One of them is even mentioned during the film as being the kind of person they expect to become a doctor. So she's clearly a clever person. She's someone who isn't going to be falling asleep during an exam. She's going to be someone who blitzes that exam and then gets up probably before everyone else and walks out. It makes absolutely no sense other than a plot contrivance to get her into the dream with Alice. There's other things as well, just tiny little things, even just little shots where actually when you analyse them, when you look at them, the stupidity levels are off the charts, and it just makes you dislike the film even more. Like, we see the victims' gravestones and they're all together. They're completely unrelated families. Other than the fact that they know each other at school, there's no reason these people would be in the exact same spot in a graveyard. It makes no sense. Add to all this some really ridiculous sequences in which Freddy kills some people. We've got this awful kung fu sequence in which this guy is basically punching thin air. Alice's brother, he does kung fu and he's trying to fight Freddy, but Freddy's invisible, and he literally just looks like a teenager prattling about in his bedroom, and that's what qualifies as a scene in a cinema released film. It's not scary, it's not even funny, it just looks stupid. We get death sequences at the beginning of Kincaid and Joey. Again, they're quite lazily done. Admittedly, Joey's death sequences is quite visually creative. The scene with the waterbed, it looks visually striking. It looks like something off a music video. But Freddy doesn't even stab the guy with his glove, and he just starts pouring blood out of him. We don't see him get stabbed at all. Yet on the flip side of that, Kincaid, who's killed moments before him, we see him get stabbed in the dream, and then we see him die in reality, but there's no blood. Yet in previous films, we've seen Freddy stab people. We've seen him carve stuff onto their body, and it pours out in real life, but we see nothing of that happen to Kincaid when he gets killed. It's just really lazy. Anyway, regardless of all that trashing, there are some good stuff in the film. There's a few good moments in the film, which I do want to get to, because I don't want to just dump a heap of trash on this thing. Like I say, there are some visually inventive sequences, particularly the cinema dream, when Alice is in this cinema and this big wind starts blowing and it pushes her into the film that she's watching. It's quite creative, and there's something quite surreal about the whole thing. It kind of makes you feel like you're in a dream. And then moments after that, we get this sequence with Freddy having this pizza with all the souls of his victims in the pizza as these little meatball heads. And the special effects on that are really creative, really very well done, and it's a moment that makes you gag, especially when Freddy sticks his knife into one of the heads and then eats it, and it looks vomit-inducing, quite frankly. And that's something that I like about this film in general, is the special effects, the practical special effects. There's some real good body horror stuff in here. I feel like a lot of it is inspired by David Cronenberg's The Fly, which was released around the same time. There's a moment where Debbie gets turned into this cockroach and then crushed. But that is all really good kind of visual body horror stuff. Really well done, really well shot, and like I say, the practical effects themselves are very well done. And the final moments with Freddy, when he's taken out and all these arms kind of rip out of his body, again, really visually creative, inventive stuff. That sequence itself goes back into stupidity though, because like I say, Alice takes him out with a mirror. It's like, after everything we've seen in all of these Nightmare on Elm Street films, you're telling me all someone needed to do was hold a mirror up to his face and that kills him. It makes no sense. Especially given that we're in the dream world, a place that Freddy is supposed to reign supreme in. Why would he allow a mirror in the dream world? We've seen him in mirrors in the dream world in previous films. The last film before this, we had a Hall of Mirrors sequence in which Freddy was in all the mirrors, looking at himself. It makes no sense at all. So just to give my final thoughts on this film, as if you need them, basically, it's dumb. It is one of the stupidest horror movies I have ever seen. It makes no sense, and that's largely due, I think, to a really bad script. Something that was quite frankly unfinished. Now, I don't think this is Renny Harlin's fault. I think this is mostly down to the writer's strike. I think given what Harlin had, he did something quite visually impressive with it. You know, it's not stunning, it's not going to blow you away, but like I say, based on what he had, he did as good a job as anybody can do. I give this film a 2 out of 5, and that's being very generous, I must say. But what do you think? Have you seen this film, and how do you think it ranks amongst the rest of the franchise? Please comment below, let me know, and until next time, thanks for watching. But Patricia Arquette does not make a return in the role of whatever the hell her name is.